Hey there. So we live so much of our lives online, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about the walls that protect that life? Every single click, every login, it all happens inside what you can think of as a digital fortress. Today, we're going to take a tour of that fortress. Because if you really want to know how to defend it, you first have to understand the enemies at the gates, the threats that are constantly trying to get in. Threats like
Identity theft, where someone basically steals your digital keys and just becomes you.
Or how about this one? The theft of entire databases of customer information, leaving millions of people completely exposed. And of course, the classics. Malicious software like viruses and Trojan horses, which are designed specifically to sneak right past our defenses. And look, these aren't just things you see in movies. They are very real, very active threats trying to breach our walls every single day.
So you see, this constant barrage of threats, it's not just random bad luck. It feels more like a coordinated, ongoing digital siege. So what is it exactly that we're defending? Well, the whole field dedicated to building and protecting these fortresses has a name: systems security.
So what does that actually mean? Well, at its heart, systems security is basically the science of building and defending these digital fortresses. It's all about protecting our information from being seen or changed or even destroyed by people who have no business being there in the first place.
Okay, so that begs the question, right? What does a secure system actually look like? It's not as simple as just building one giant wall. Real security, true security, it comes from following a very specific foundational blueprint.
And that blueprint is known as the CIA triad. And no, not that CIA. This is like the absolute bedrock of systems security. And it stands for three things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Let's break down what each of these pillars really is.
First up is confidentiality. You can think of this as the fortress's rule of secrecy. It's the need-to-know principle in action. It means that your information is like a sealed letter. It should only ever be opened and read by the person it's meant for, period. No one else gets a peek.
Next, we have integrity. This one is all about making sure that our data is trustworthy and, hasn't been messed with. Just imagine a bank transfer. Integrity is what guarantees that if you send $100, the other person gets exactly $100. Not $10, not $1,000. The information stays pure and unaltered.
And finally, there's availability. This pillar is so simple but so critical. I mean, what good is a fortress if you, the rightful owner, are locked out? Your data and your systems have to be there for you when you need them. It's like an ATM. It's got to work when you need to get cash.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. You can't just crank all three of these pillars up to the max all at once. There's this fundamental tension between them, which leads to this crucial, kind of humbling rule. You will never, ever own a perfectly secure system. It is always, always a trade-off.
And this slide just perfectly lays out that balancing act. Let's say you wanted maximum confidentiality. Well, you could just unplug your computer from the internet completely. Done. Nothing gets in. But its availability just dropped to zero. And what's worse, its integrity is now at risk because you can't get any of those critical security updates. It's a constant juggling act.
So, if security is this constant tug of war, how do attackers actually try to pull the rope their way?
Well, to defend our fortress, we first have to understand how our enemies think and operate. So let's break down the anatomy of an attack.
Every single successful breach, it follows this exact sequence of events. First, there has to be a vulnerability. Think of it as a weakness, a crack in the fortress wall. Then, a threat appears. That's the attacker who actually finds that weakness. And finally, you get the attack itself, which is just the act of that threat exploiting the vulnerability to get inside and do some damage.
Okay, so we know how attacks happen. The logical next question is, how in the world do we stop them? And that brings us to our defensive strategies. In the security world, these tools and tactics are called controls, and they're all guided by a few really important core principles.
The first, and honestly the most important principle, is this: defense in depth. You never ever rely on a single massive wall to protect your fortress. Why? Because that's a single point of failure. Instead, you build multiple layers of security.
So think about it like this. If an attacker somehow gets past your outer wall, let's say that's your firewall, they still have to get through the locked gatehouse, which is going to require a strong password. And even if they manage that, the information inside is written in a secret language they can't possibly understand, all thanks to encryption. Each layer just slows them down and protects what's important.
All right, the second key principle is called least privilege, and it's actually super simple. You only give people the keys to the specific rooms they absolutely need to be in.
A user should have the absolute minimum level of access they need to do their job, and nothing more. This dramatically limits the damage an intruder can do if they ever manage to steal someone's keys.
Okay, let's see this in action with a real-world scenario. Imagine a university's student database. The vulnerability? Well, students often use weak, really easy-to-guess passwords. The threat is some hacker out there looking for an easy way in. This creates a huge risk of a major data leak. So what's the control? The university enforces strong password policies and, this is the crucial part, adds another layer of defense, two-factor authentication, or 2FA. That one simple control neutralizes the threat.
So you see all these ideas, the CIA triad, vulnerabilities, and controls, they all work together to determine just how strong your fortress really is. And you can often tell if a system is secure or not just by looking at its design.
I mean, an insecure fortress, it has weak passwords, outdated software that's full of known holes, and wide open access. But a secure fortress, that's a different story. It enforces strong passwords and 2FA, it's constantly being updated to patch any new weaknesses, and it uses multiple layers like firewalls and encryption to control exactly who gets in.
And that's really what it all boils down to. Your digital fortress, whether it's for your personal life or for your job, is being tested every single day. The attackers are always out there, looking for a crack in the wall. So the only question left to ask yourself is, are your walls strong enough?